who we couldn't keep.
Yeah, Daenerys went from Colorado to North Carolina now, so
he's in North Carolina now.
He's going Winston-Salem Christian Prep instead of Colorado Prep. So that's five commitments now. So yeah, there's a line somewhere there. Coach Mac. You decide where it is. Hashtag you decide.
I only ask because I crossed a line evidently, or just crossing the creek. That's the only reason why I asked. I transferred in college because I went to play for my old man. I think that's legit.
That sounds like a good reason.
Okay, but I'm talking about like my most recent transfer when I went from across the district.
Well, that's just because you got one side that's just fired up about anything related to us. So
that's Cooley.
No, we got.
That's because Cooley pokes the bear. McLaughlin, do they still ignore you over there?
I have lost several good friends. I've got about 3 people that I still talk to, but I've lost several good friends.
Really?
That refuse to say anything to me anymore.
Unbelievable.
Coach Mack, if you think it was the other way around, do you think it'd be the same way? Like if you left here for Monarchs?
No, because I've told them that, and that's the thing that upsets them the most.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
We're recording this, so I'll refrain from the words I actually use. I say, because we don't care about you.
I can edit anything that needs to be edited from this before
you say. I said, we don't care. I said, our kids walk down the hallway with Bellevue West T-shirts, which rankles one person in our building, and but Monarch T-shirts don't bother us. Kids don't say anything. Teachers don't say anything. But if you do that in that other building, there will be at least 3 or 4 teachers and a head principal and other people that will say something to you. So it's just a different clash of cultures, and it doesn't matter either way. And to be honest with you, I'm glad I'm on this side because I don't care anymore. Sorry.
There's only one sign in my front yard, and there's 2 teachers that live here. I'm just saying.
Well said. Well said.
Coach Hazelhorst, just delete everything so far and just start over and go now.
So we just may not. We'll see if anything even needs to be posted that comes out of this. So.
Good point.
But. Well, I don't have much in terms of leading a discussion today. So obviously we could spend some time talking about the recent announcement from the governor and NSAA that says one thing one day and comes back and changes things the next. So, however, I don't know. The one thing that I would suggest for everybody, and I'm doing this right now with our cross country parents, but just trying to figure out where parents stand in all of this as we make decisions. So I just threw together a quick Google survey that I sent out to all the parents that I have on an email list that we regularly send updates through, just making sure that I got to know where our parents are at in terms of, are they comfortable? And I sent it out this morning. I've had 12 parents respond, and all 12 of them have no problem with kids getting together to meet, for what it's worth. But that might be something worth considering doing. So.
Well, what I'm dealing with right now are parents wanting to know whether they should get their kids into some lifting program at Explosive Edge or, all of that. So that's where I'm at. I've had probably 10 parents contact me. Or private lessons, or what should I be doing?
Coach Pullman, your thoughts on that?
I'll just stay muted.
Anytime Coach Clemenger says, hey, your thoughts on that, that means that he's had an hour conversation with the other person and he wants the other person just to go off.
Yeah, like Mr. Peñas was saying, I think I've learned a little bit over time on when to speak and when to listen.
And that was kind of like poking the bear, whoever used that earlier.
How are you? I'm just curious how you're responding to those parents as they send those emails, Katie.
Bill, sorry. I know you're trying to get me to talk. I've just told them that we're going to have something in place and that they don't need to look elsewhere at this point. But I don't know if it's satisfying them for a whole, like I'm trying to stay ahead of the game by saying I'm going to communicate with them next week again, and we will have a plan in place very soon. Hold off on any other plans at this point.
But keep doing the free workouts that are programmed by somebody that's really good at it.
Exactly. Yep.
Just a thought.
Who's that again?
Yeah.
Oh, Kurt. There you are.
Yeah.
He's just gonna sit quiet.
Thanks, buddy.
Stay muted.
I'm assuming everybody saw the announcement that the NSA put out, or that was in the Omaha World Herald today, about the NSA kind of backtracking on setting up multiple weight rooms in different places in your school. So that's obviously going to have a major impact on, you think about running kids through a Class A school, especially. It's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. So
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, last night about 8 or 9 o'clock, there was a flimsy article of basically questioning if they could do multiple rooms or if we could do multiple rooms. And the way I interpreted that article was that, no, it didn't look like we could. So then today's article came out that, yes, we can, which is, I guess, good news or better news, I guess. But I agree, it's still going to be, I don't want to say a logistical nightmare, but very, very much it's going to be a process to get all that stuff, especially with our building under a lot of construction and a lot of craziness, if you've been up there recently.
right now, do we have, because at one point they're going to shut down the hallway wasn't it between the Hall of Champions and the weight room?
And there's
They're
no
doing
carpet.
some-
They're like redoing all of the carpet. The parking lot's like 8 spaces big.
Yeah, there's lots of, I hadn't heard the hallway thing.
that I'd heard that at one point, because they've got to redo just some stuff in the hallway. Because aren't they putting in like an officials room? As they kind of make those adjustments and stuff, they're going to have to shut down for a little bit. But I think that was planned before they got rolling with the Titan Performance Center earlier than expected, and we lost that entrance. So
Do we know if we can travel between, say, the gym into the weight room? Just that little section? If they were to have part of that roped off?
I haven't heard anything. Coleman, I do have a question for you, though, just because you kind of live the fitness and the workout facility rules and this whole, so as they've kind of set that out as guidelines potentially to guide us, like what does that mean for your coaches? Can your coaches work with multiple groups of athletes? Can you bounce between groups? I'm just curious I don't live that world at all, so just curious what that looks like on your end.
Yeah. Well, that part's different than I've even had to deal with, because as far as in the facilities, we talk about 10 people, things like that. Any staff does not count. It's only the people in there, like clientele or, whoever. But as far as that's what I kind of wanted to know. They're talking about, you have 10 people that you're with. You're not going to go train. You're not going to go lift with another group of 10 at any point. So they have to stay in those groups. Me personally, traveling, if I could find a way that I can at least travel, maybe only certain coaches stay with a certain group of 10 and they're going to stay there with them the entire time. And I just kind of float that way. Not too many people are floating and it's just me. That would be fine. I don't know what you guys think on that one, but maybe it's just something where we have to assign one coach, you get this group of 10 or whatever, or 2 groups of 10 or whatever that may be.
I'm
about,
sorry.
Go
Go ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to bring up the whole spotting thing. Spotting on, you're not 6 feet apart, with a kid squatting or even benching. And I'm not trying to get you in trouble or anything, but like in your world, I mean, do you just sort of weigh, safety and
Yeah.
I think you have to. I mean, if you're doing
When we're in here, and the thing about it is, I told my own daughter this. I'm almost to the degree that like what we have in here, or like what we would have with just 10 people at a time, those are the same people you're going to see every day. And so in here, I would argue that we're cleaner than any of these Genesis or anything like that, because we're cleaning up after those people right away. So it's getting cleaned immediately. The gyms, some of them, like I guess I hear they have somebody that's just walking around and watching you work out and wiping it down just in case you did. But there's going to be plenty of people that just say, screw it, I'm not wiping it down. It's not a big deal. But on the whole, if you have just 10 people at one time and that group is working together, you're going to find that it's pretty clean. And you're able to keep it pretty clean. It's those when it's so many random coming in at one time, that's going to be the problem. So if you're seeing everybody, the same people every single day at the same time, I don't think it's nearly as a problem. That's why when I'm here, when I'm spotting, I've been exposed to these people at some point, every other day. And those are the same people that I see every other day. So that exposure has been there the entire time. I don't know if that answers it completely, but I've had no issue. Okay, I got to spot this person. But we've made sure when they come in here, I mean, if they have anything whatsoever, they're not to come in. And that would be the same with our kids. If they have any remote, I don't feel well, they can't come in. Whether we feel like they're really sick or not, we just have to let it go and honor that. So. Cassie, have you been to down to Bob's at all?
Don't judge me, but I went to Bob's today.
Okay.
And there's hand sanitizer along every wall, and there's 8 trillion bleach wipes everywhere. And they just come on the announcements and say, wipe it down before and after each use, stay 6 feet away from people, and keep it to 10 per room. So the staff walk around with little clipboards and count us. And then if there's more than 10 people in the leg room, they say, okay, disperse. Like, it's not a big deal. There's some people in masks, some are not. It's just kind of chill. So it's doable.
I would tell you guys, in Blair today, we had a coaches meeting just a little bit ago, and instead of wiping things down in between sessions, we're going to actually get like a tank sprayer and spray it all down, kind of like wrestling mats do. I don't know, Brandon, if you guys do the sprayer and the wrestling mats. We're going to test it tomorrow to see how long it takes to dry. We think that'll get better coverage of everything. So that's what we're going to try to, try to clean up after each 30, 40-minute session. But
Coach Cooley would love to walk around in a hazmat suit all day and clean up for everybody.
Who's that?
Coach Cooley would love to walk around in a hazmat suit. So.
I will tell you guys, we're also going to lock our restrooms. So when kids come in, they don't use the restrooms because we don't have to worry about cleaning them. If a kid has an emergency, has to use it, we will. But we're going to make the kid and coaches clean up right away, which we're trying to prevent that by not using the restrooms. But that's our biggest worry is the restrooms and what doors they have kids come in and out. And not saying we won't break some of those rules, but we don't want to get in trouble and get caught. I mean, like in a good way. So that's some things we talked about today with some of those logistics. And then also, I mean, what we're trying to set up a plan too is people who never ever go to the weight room or conditioning, we're trying to see, can we get them for like an hour or two per week on like an afternoon session just because they might have kids or something. So we're trying to work a schedule to get more people involved, because just for Small Blair right now, our time's going to be 6:15 to 12:10 p.m. just to get our kids through. And so that's with 4 stations being used. So anyway, it stinks. And I have a feeling next week and a half, rules will change again. I have a feeling is what my gut tells me, but.
How are you
Change-
approaching things from the, go ahead, Coach Glenn.
I was just changing what way, Bubba? What do you think? Stricter, looser?
I think stricter. Back to the squatting or the spotter, we're making all kids that get that close wear a mask. We're doing it. We're also doing parent release forms with all the requirements on it, whether they read it or not. We're just gonna have them sign it, just one more safety net on our side as coaches and school administrators and all that. And then every kid that doesn't sign it, we won't let them in until they sign it. And so, but I think they'll be stricter, to be honest with you. Or they're going to be all out open, less. I mean, it's going to be like all open or a lot more strict, just because a lot more conversations are happening on what you just said, kids getting close together. And if we're about safety, that's probably defeating the purpose. And so I think we're going to try to create some of our workouts where maybe they're not what we totally want to get done, but they're also maybe where we don't have to get kids so close together. I don't know. The conversation we had, do we really need a spotter on squat and hang clean? Well, yes and no. Bench, you probably have to. Squat and hang clean, deadlift, probably not. I mean, if push came to shove. But
are these conversations happening at our place, or like when are we going to find out more with things that we can do? Did anybody got what's up?
I would love to have them at Papio South, but I got to finish up Blair first. But I don't know if they are OD. I can't answer yes or no to that. So
The email we got yesterday from VA just said that he and Jason Ryan and central office were getting together, and he was going to communicate with us early next week. That's the only thing I know.
So do we think that's the 20th that we'll have answers, or
We have to.
we have to?
Yeah.
Well, I have this is totally off topic, but I am so confused right now because I got an email from one of the major clubs in Omaha, volleyball clubs. They have a full lineup of camps going on in June and July. They've got registration open. They've got, I mean, they've got 36 openings, they say, on each camp. Like, am I missing something here? Like, are the clubs and the other sports doing this?
I can speak to basketball. I mean, like the OSA people, they're having people come in for one kid at a basket, and somebody kind of stands at center court and chirps out, directions. And at that facility, they've got volleyball going nonstop all the time. And so they said it was because in volleyball, there's not as much contact, I guess. You're not like constantly around somebody, I guess. So that's why I'm just telling you what they said.
I know. It's so weird.
Because the police actually went up to the OSA facility and we're checking on stuff. And so that's what they told us at our little meeting about, whether or not we were going to be able to have summer basketball.
Okay. But we can't facilitate anything with our kids. Nothing. No contact with sport equipment. Nothing.
Correct.
That was part of the NSA statement too. No camps can be offered or anything. I mean, they didn't rule it out for the whole summer, but also didn't sound good in terms of the cases of that. So I do think
it's going to make sense at all. The inconsistencies are so all over the place. And that goes for, I don't care if you're talking about restaurants or you're talking about gyms. we're talking about schools. It is so inconsistent right now. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Other than just keep throwing out ideas, which makes it hard to really organize anything. Like Bob said, that it could be different in a week. The rule could be different in a week or two. We don't know. Stricter or looser, or whatever that may be. I don't know. So right now, I think I've talked to Coach Wright. I've talked to Coach Clem, O'Donnell. Just what are going to be our ideas going forward? Can we partition the rooms in some way? Maybe make 2 weight rooms out of our room and maybe that gets us to 20, and then we could do the same thing to the rest of the room. That gets us to 40. Or if we could go into a classroom or something. Do we rotate through? Do we make maybe sessions slightly longer or more of them throughout the day? If you had 30 girls in a group and I got 10 outside, 10 in the gym, and 10 in the weight room, do 20 minutes at a time, is that going to be our best bet? Are we going to have to go morning session, afternoon session? Just a bunch of stuff I just threw in my head to throw out what that might be. And then we're going to have to make sure that we're all on the same page. Not any one of us can be there the entire day as much as we want to. So who wants to go where and who I get in priority. I mean, we know, what we got coming up with fall sports first, and then, we work from there. And it's not ideal. I like to make sure we get everybody where they want to go, but we got to start somewhere. So I don't know.
I'm just curious from a numbers standpoint. I mean, when I try to logistically think through things, we got to have an idea of what our numbers are. So even if you just focus on just fall sports, say to begin with, and you took football and volleyball, and assuming Coach Horton's going to want to be in there with softball, I mean, we'll stay out of there with cross country just to alleviate everybody's a little bit of problem. And I think Coach Stenger's on the same page on the guys' side from the conversations I've had with him. I know Coach Cooley's going to want some weight room time for the boys tennis team in the fall.
No thanks.
And, but if you just take football, volleyball, and softball, and let's just assume every kid can and does come in. I mean, what are we talking about from a number standpoint in terms of number of kids that could potentially need to run through there in a week?
We've got 150 in football. 9-12.
I have 67 kids who have signed up right now, saying they're trying out in the fall.
Anybody have any idea on softball
That
numbers?
includes incoming freshmen.
Coach, I would assume 60 for them.
50 to 60, yeah.
I talked to Grand Island today on the phone, and they are doing their – I'm trying to find my notes. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're doing their 10 through 12 kids, and Tuesday, Thursday, they're doing freshmen. That's right or wrong or indifferent, but I would say Grand Island would be similar to Papio South as far as large numbers. Doesn't compare to Blair very well just because it's just smaller, but I don't know what that looks like and what they're all doing for lifts and coordinating and space, but they told me on the phone today when I was trying to just make some phone calls on what they had going on. But I'm not saying that's the right way either because I don't know what that looks like. But
that one came up. I don't know. Coach Wright I think we talked about that maybe.
Yeah.
That was something where so the freshmen only get 2 days a week. So what we make it a 5-day a week routine. Upperclassmen go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday. They got sprint drills, and we just do the opposite with our incoming freshmen. Might get people out, so we can get more room in there. Who knows? That could work.
Coach Pullman, we brought that up in Blair, and the reason we didn't like that, at least for Blair, I think it's different for you guys and us, not the Titans, is we just don't have as many people, and so an extra day would be another day that people didn't plan on spending, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, normal, or we go the same as you guys, I think, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And so we think we would be shorthanded if we did that. That's why our plan didn't include that 5th day, just because of that for us.
Coaches or athletes?
Coaches, the supervisors, sponsors, people to be around, and then our big thing is transitioning kids. So when that group of 10 comes in, when that next 10 is sitting around, you need a coach to kind of be around them. That was another question we brought up. So we're still trying to put our flow process for our area in play, and I'm going to do that over the weekend. And then, yeah, we just don't know how it's going to look either. But that's our biggest worry, is that transition time is following the protocols. And then if we have our time set up, is what we said is, if we're saying you're in the weight room for 30 minutes and you're halfway in a lift, you're done. You're putting the rack up and you're getting out, because we can't afford to get off schedule with the number of kids coming in. And so, again, that's just another idea for you guys as you put yours together, is whatever the time is, 40 minutes, I think we're putting in the weight room. Because I said some kids need more time. Well, you don't get it. It's just, that's sorry. Like, we can't get off on our schedule, because if we get off at our 7 a.m. time and we have sessions all the way through 12:10, that's going to be a problem with kids coming and going.
What are you planning for turnaround time between your sessions?
We put 5 minutes. That's why we're going to test the sprayer tomorrow to see how long it takes to dry. And if it takes longer than 5 minutes to dry, we might have to do a different plan and cut it to 35 minutes and 10 minutes in between. Yeah, we're still trying to work through that. And then we're actually having kids come through 2 different doors. Our original plan was to the main door that we'd always come in, but we're trying to get kids just for the flow to come in one door, so they never ever have to really cross each other for those different groups. So
that's where we're going to run into some problem. I mean, what rooms could we even utilize to set up a weight room? Have those questions, has groups of you had that conversation all, Coach Pullman, Coach O'D? Have we talked potential locations? I mean, we have 280 kids that we're potentially talking about right now. So that's 28 groups if we've got to maintain 10. And
yeah, so that was, when we were talking to VA a week ago, that question I kept bringing up, because that's going to have a huge impact on how we plan things. And we really don't know. We don't have answers on that in terms of what we can use, unless, Kurt, did they talk to you about space yet or not?
No, but yeah, it was something that, I had somebody in here bring up the idea of being able to use the class, going into classrooms. And that might be a great one to get our freshmen into. Those freshmen never had camp, never had anything. So we could get them without any, a lot of racks or anything like that. We could go into not only just body weight, but even dumbbell, kettlebell, PVC, whatever we have to do within there. That would work out as well. But it's a thought. Now, the thing is we got to make sure we have enough equipment. And we can't really take a bunch of equipment out of the main weight room because, well, that's heavy as hell. We only have portables that haven't even been moved in yet. So we have to get them moved in the first place. So I don't even know how much equipment as far as racks and stuff we could put into the classrooms. We'd have to utilize classrooms for something body weight, dumbbell, kettlebell oriented, or not even something lifting oriented at all. We could be doing something totally different. And I assume we get the gym. Is the gym done being resurfaced or anything? Were they going to do that earlier?
I think it's still on the calendar for the middle of July is what it was.
But okay.
I think they were trying to move it though.
So Jordan said multiple times on these Zooms that he'd be interested in possibly using the softball field. But then I know they also, one of the guidelines came out that you shouldn't be doing sport specific skills. So I think maybe when he said that, he was hoping they could take ground balls, hit, do stuff like that, and then maybe do some dumbbell box jump stuff off to the side. Now, if they can't do that, I don't know. I wish he was on here, but, one interesting thing, I think I was talking to Mr. Spilker about this, but they've gone back and forth on the weight room thing, but have they gone back and forth much on – one of the first articles said that they wanted the gyms only for conditioning, only for running and that stuff. And then me and Spilker were texting, we're like – because he said, well, I read this that we can't lift in the gym. And I said, well, if that's the case, I said, that's silly, because what's the difference between I mean, it's a room. It's a room just like room CO2 is, you know, like why couldn't we, so I don't know.
I think part of the question is, Clem, don't ask the question because we may not like the answer. If your weight room is in a gym, don't ask the question if you can do a portable weight room in the gym. Just follow the guidelines. My answer would be put a weight room in the gym because that's now our new weight room. You know what I mean by that? Just
right.
I always catch myself too trying to want an answer, but if I don't want to hear no, I want to hear yes. So I think if we don't ask it and just read what they sent, I think we'll be okay.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Now, Coach Wright, does that screw you up at all? But then if they're not allowing sports specific stuff, it's not like you're supposed to be hitting volleyballs and stuff.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
I just want to get all our kids through. Like I do not want those freshmen to not have that same opportunity that they should have had. You know.
I agree, and if I could throw in, I'll back that up. I think it's easy to put the freshmen on the back burner or forget about them or neglect them or whatever. But I think I would be against doing something like that. I think that you know that stuff's important.
Hey, do you guys think? I keep saying you guys because I changed my shirt to the Titans in another month. Trying to do 2 jobs here, but do you guys think you could use Liberty as a release for the freshmen? Because when I talked to Grand Island uses their middle schools just because I use Grand Island and Papio South because it's similar size than Blair. Is that a way to just focus on the 10 through 12 because of the numbers issue and not being there from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m.?
I love that idea. Now Liberty's that's a whole nother animal, but Papio Middle is only 2.5, 3 miles away to where when I was talking to Spilker and I was saying, well, if we're worried about freshman numbers and stuff, could we use Papio Middle? I mean, 2/3 of them come from that building anyway. Their parents are comfortable with that building. Could the freshman coaches go there, monitor that, use their 2 gyms, their small weight room, their cafeteria? I mean, we could have multiple sites. And I brought it up to VA. I brought it up, a couple times, and for whatever reason, some people were just hesitant about. Well, that's one more place we got to clean. That's one more place we got to transport stuff. And it's just like, okay, but it's either that or we're going to be running from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. So.
Well, and the question we also brought up here, but I can't use Blair and compare you guys. It's just the size is different. But if we needed to use our middle school gym, could we have the freshmen just do like technique and like not P90X, but something where it's just different movement and maybe not your core lifts just because of space and time of getting younger kids in? And the question I asked our coaches, I said, who are your impact players? Probably your junior, senior kids for the most part are your impact players. So how do you make sure you get them in the weight room and what you need them to do versus maybe your incoming freshmen, sophomores? If we had to pick and choose, who are your more important kids because of this situation? And I don't think we'll run into that here in Blair, but I know you guys will, again, just because of numbers and space.
Another question I'll ask, just because I'm trying to think through things logistically and there's lots of variables here, but I mean, from a workout standpoint, Coach Pullman, as you program things, I mean, what are you thinking time-wise for kids to even make it worth our time?
Hour would be ideal, but that doesn't mean we have to just stick into the weight room for that hour. That could mean anything. It could mean part of their speed training. Still warming up outside. I'd get them away. I'd get them out of the building to warm up as much as possible. But as far as time that needs to be in there, it's natural to set up hour blocks, it seems like. Maybe 45. It's kind of one of those deals where just give me my time and I'll figure out what we're going to do. It doesn't, that makes it sound simple, but it's not simple. But if you told me we had 5 minutes, all right, just let me know that I have 5 minutes and then I'll figure out what we're going to do in those 5 minutes. So what's ideal? Yeah, I want as much time as possible, but I'll take what I can get at this point. So if the best way to do something is to do, we talked about 20 minutes at a time where you're rotating them out, or if we get a full hour in there, I can figure out what we're going to do from that point.
Are you thinking, is anybody thinking like we're sports specific for a block of time, or are we going to mix sports? Like, or is football going to take from 8 to 11 or whatever, or however that long would take? Like, I don't know.
Katie, to answer that, we put a plan together for all three of those situations: boys, girls, grade level, and then sports specific. And all of our coaches agreed to go by boys and girls.
By boys and girls.
And so I think that'd probably be a question you guys need to answer. And then to answer Pullman, our time, we're actually going, our first session 6:15 to 6:55 is weight room. And those kids go to agility. They'll go to agility after that for 40 minutes. So actually our time for a kid, say a boy that goes at 6:15, will be there 6:15 to 7:40. 40 minutes of the weight room and then 40 minutes of agility. But also that's including your warm up, your stretching, your all that stuff. So
one of the logistical headaches that we're going to run into just because of construction, I mean, where our weight room is located at, if you want to warm up outside or do things outside, we're then adding in probably a bigger transition piece because you can't get out. I mean, I'm assuming that door south right out of by the weight room is now closed off. We don't have any grass access, to the east of school with all the construction going on there. So we're looking at a bit of a transition travel time. Coach Pullman, what's your turnaround clean time in your facility as you're planning out groups?
Honestly, we're cleaning as we go. So once they finish up, they're using a piece of equipment, it's getting cleaned immediately. Because that might not be the same situation when it comes out to the high school, but for here, it's cleaned as we go. So
if we're only allowed 10 kids in the weight room, can't we put 10 kids on one half and our transition time be 0 and put them on the other half? And then while those kids are working out, we can clean the other side. That way we get a 40-minute clean window, and they're always getting clean racks, just rotating the racks as we go through.
You mean like offsetting when they get done?
Yeah, so we have the first 10 kids are on the south side of the weight room. The next 10 kids are on the north side of the weight room. That would limit transition time to nothing, as long as we're not interacting in the doorway.
Then you're saying you can clean one side while the next group is working out.
Yeah.
And then just flip-flopping back and forth between those.
Yeah.
That would be good if we don't put a partition in the weight room, right? I mean, I think it'll only take 5 minutes to clean. I mean, we do it at the gym I go to, and as soon as the workout's done, we're spraying, we're wiping. It's pretty quick. So I think that's a good idea if the weight room gives us one area to work out in.
Well, if we just look at this from a number standpoint, if we have 280 kids again, and that's just talking fall sports athletes, that's not any other athletes. And that's assuming they're all there based on those numbers, right? So, but I think it probably gives us a good starting point. You're talking about 28 groups that have to be run through in a day if you want every kid through there every day. Obviously, if you split things up, then that can cut your numbers down. But until we know how many rooms, logistically, if we're just stuck in just the weight room, we're going to have to get super creative. There's just no logistical. We can't run the thing 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And even then, running it 24 hours a day doesn't get all those kids through there.
I'd be a fan of as many different stations, rooms, places in that building as we can find. It's not going to be ideal, but I'd rather have a group at the end of a hallway doing a lunge workout and doing this and that. And again, I'd be a big fan of hopefully trying to get Papio Middle on board. If you could knock out 4 4 areas there, or possibly 6. That'd be huge to cut down on those numbers.
Yeah.
Another idea, yeah, I don't know. I've talked to a couple of people too. They've talked about, well, sort of like what Coach Bowen was saying, like alternating like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursday, and just really load up on those days. I know 2 days a week is not very good as far as the development goes, but and then switch the next week. I don't know. They're just, I think everything's on the table.
This might be a time to consider. I mean, for some of those sports, it might mean more than others. And Coach Johansson can maybe be an asset in all this. But I mean, just to utilize some of this time, if we can't get in a weight room as much, is to really focus on some sprint work, some things that you can do on a grass field. You know, one of the questions that I have is, it did mention that you could work outdoors in groups of 10. You know, but what does that mean on our campus? We've got a big enough campus. We could get a lot of groups of 10 spread out. You know, that you could utilize different grass fields. You got that grass area up where we start and finish our cross country course. You got the football field. You got a baseball, softball field. I mean, we've got lots of areas that have natural breaks for separation. I mean, you could run a lot of groups outside. And that might be worth thinking about from a programming standpoint.
And that's just if weather permits, though.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
think about like what happens on a rainy day where we have nowhere to go.
I mean, that permits, and then, you know, if you have, and then you got to have coaches, right? So on a given time, like at 9 a.m., there's going to be some kids lifting while some kids are outside sprinting. You need, you know, I think we want to keep going back to trying to spin some positive out of this, try to make, try to draw out some leadership with our kids and not have to hold their hand for so much of it. But I think obviously you have to supervise. Then I was just trying to be creative with the outside stuff, the sprints or the hills or stuff like that. If we need to have multiple coaches with each group there, or can some of the leaders sort of take some of that? I don't know. I'm just trying to maximize our adult bodies.
I think with the incoming freshmen, would we want to get them in their weight room much as possible? Yeah, but I think developmentally we can get a lot done not in the weight room with them. That's fine, because they can get initial stuff those 2 days. That's plenty for them. We could be doing a lot of single leg unilateral work out on the grass anywhere, and developing them that way. They didn't have half the semester. They didn't have the strength camp. They didn't have any stuff like that. So that can be something that we can look at as far as them only getting 2 days in the weight room. That's not a problem at all. In fact, that might be the best solution for them. It's just a matter of the older ones that are more experienced. We probably want to get them in, make sure they get their 3 days.
So, Clem, from a football standpoint, how many freshmen do you have? I mean, if we start to pull those numbers out, to just think from a logistical standpoint, do you have an estimate?
I mean, we had between the meetings that we've had between our junior Titan kids and the 2 big meetings that we had 97 names on the list, which is awesome. I mean, the biggest we've ever had was like 60. So, I mean, realistically, if we could get 75 kids in helmets next year, I mean, that would be freaking incredible.
And you were kind of counting those numbers in your 150 number before?
Yeah, because usually it's around 140. Usually it's around 80, 10 through 12, and 60 freshmen, 140. But it feels like this incoming freshman group has got good numbers, so probably 80 and 70 maybe.
Coach Wright, what about you?
I'm sorry, I was reading something. What was the question?
Just freshmen.
I have 25. I just looked. I have 25 freshmen. Let me see here. 25 freshmen and about 35 sophomores to seniors.
I mean, right there, you've already pulled, if you pull freshmen out, you've pulled 100 kids out of the weight room if you do something different with them, and that's not counting Coach Horton's softball numbers. You drop it down to 180. You just opened up 10 groups during the day. So
Coach Horton also has been talking about him, like Coach Clem said, getting him down onto the field to do any of their training, if I can develop something for that, which to a degree I can. Then they were talking about even putting a couple racks down in the shed or something so that they have their own and they are off doing their own thing. So that would get a lot of people out of there too. If it worked out, I can't say it's going to work out perfectly or not.
VA just texted and said the NSA is coming out with something tomorrow or Monday. We don't even know what's allowed right now. So
Well, what
something new stuff. Coach Clem, you know how it rolls. Just new stuff. What's allowed, what's not.
Ricketts is on talking right now. New stuff about rodeos and the state fair.
So he says everything's up for grabs, and that's really funny, by the way. Rodeo and state fair. I mean, like we just don't know right now. Like we just don't know. We can plan all we want, but there's a bunch of other people that
We're
are
going
going
to
to
make the
decisions that drive us crazy.
Well, as I'll tell you, boys soccer, I know we're a huge presence in the weight room in the summer, usually. We'll be fine. You might see a couple of the basketball players, but other than that, I'm not encouraging it. They're all getting into their club soccer at this point anyway. So I'm not pushing it at all, so we'll be out of there.
we probably asked way more questions than we've answered, but
Well, same inconsistencies. And, when they were just saying, well, let's just be ready for whatever comes. Be ready for what? That's the problem. Be ready to have something.
To me, that's punting. That's putting it off on somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's assumed that we can all just go poof. Oh, we're ready. No.
We need more answers before we can make anything happen.
well, I'll share a little story from the cross country world, just for some humor here. So Shane Fruit, who coaches out in Ogallala, his AD was reading through all the NSA regulations, had a question about how it pertained to cross country specifically, because when you read the bullet points, it says you can do weightlifting, running, right, those sorts of things. And then the next bullet point says no sport specific drills, which has been NSA language. It's been used for the lifetime of the NSAA. We as cross country coaches always laugh because it puts us in a quandary. Well, his AD, who's kind of new, and Coach Fruit said is very much of a rule follower and isn't going to get anywhere close to a line, was concerned about what that meant for cross country. So called Beller at the NSAA and said, what does this mean for cross country? And Beller told him that cross country kids cannot meet to run at all during the summer, because that's sport specific. He then said that we couldn't even provide programming for our athletes. Like we can't recommend any sort of workout because that is also sport specific. So I've been breaking that rule for the last 17 years. So
that goes back to what Bubba said about don't ask questions if you answer.
That's it. Same thing
Agreed.
I tell my wife. I ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Agreed. So, but I found that entertaining. So that's just the point that the NSA is, they're just blowing in the wind. No,
That sounds like an NCAA type thing right there.
Yeah. That's why for the longest time, Millard North football would go in their gym and 11 on 11, and they would take a beach towel and they'd wrap it up in duct tape and they'd use a beach towel with their triple option stuff. And they're not using a football, they're just getting exercise in there. That's the way that they got around it. which I always thought was very, very smart.
Genius, absolutely genius. So
Don't be acting like Gene didn't do that stuff. Come on now.
No, Gene had all sorts of footballs all over the place. He did not care.
I'm gonna tell you, Gene never broke any rules at all.
Never, you know.
He just had his assistants do that.
Yeah. I know we always control what we have to or what we can control, but am I the only one that is thinking about the elephant in the room, that if here we are 3 months out of fall sports and we're this cautious with everything and masks and sanitizer and you can't program, how in the bleep are we going to be having any sort of sports in the fall?
Don't put it out there.
If we're in this situation, especially the sport of football where kids are coughing, breathing, snot, and sweating on each other. I'm being honest, like, hey man, I'll jump through these hoops. We'll do all this crap. Cause I know that's right, you know, but we might do all this stuff and then the powers that be and the, you know, just the virus itself will say, no, man, you're not going to play this year. So I know, I'm sorry, but that's been itching my brain for the last week or two.
I think I already saw a rule change for volleyball that all 6 players have to remain behind the 9-foot line or whatever it is, right? You can't social distance if you're face to face at the net. So
What?
I'm just totally making that up. So.
We have to play only 10-foot line to 10-foot line.
No, you have to, after every contact, you have to sanitize. Pass.
Sanitize pump belts.
Yeah. You got pumps on either side of you.
They actually talked about that for the NBA. Like every time out, they'd sanitize the ball.
That makes no sense.
Well, and I think that's the thing. I mean, to Coach Clemenger's point, I mean, those thoughts have been in the back of my mind too. And you figure if anybody's going to figure it out, it's going to be the people who are making a ridiculous amount of money out of it. And baseball's still not playing, and the NBA's still not playing. And I don't get the sense that they're starting anytime soon. Now, wrestling's okay because WWF or WWE or whatever, they're still
Right.
on events.
Well, we don't touch each other.
Brannigan
So.
will be good. So, but I do think it's a fair question.
I just asked VA if he knows anything about the multiple room stuff, and he said it's a big question. And then he came back and said, can't stand Ricketts. He's got 0 clue. So nobody knows. That was the response.
Well, anybody else have any thoughts, questions?
Well, one thought I had, and again, that's all it was a thought, because I didn't want to spend too much pain. But I was thinking, here we are going to make some of these decisions, and then BA's going to drop a bomb on Monday or something, you know, and so we probably don't need to get too much into it. But I mean, the conversations are good, but you know, right now I look at things and I'm like, okay, well, I guess my off season is going to be in the fall when I can't have any of my athletes around anyway, because they'll be doing other sports. So it's, you know, as much as I've thought about the fact that, hey, it's great because I'm a winter sport and, you know, I get to wait until later. At the same time, I'm thinking it's going to impact all that. And kind of a rude realization that things are going to be changing regardless. So and then I even saw yesterday where a couple of schools in California, was it colleges, they're already calling off fall semester, and everything's going to be online, and kids won't be allowed in school. So I don't know. Sorry.
They were ending with all the doom and gloom right now.
Yeah, he's right though. I mean, nobody knows what's going to go on. This could hit again. We could have another spike, and things will continue to change. It's good for us to get together, talk it out, and get some ideas going though, and throw some ideas out there, because you're right. Once a decision is finally made, we may not have much time to prepare to figure out what the heck we're going to do. So it's good to get together, talk it out.
Absolutely.
We all know we just can't really make decisions yet.
Just actually kind of nice to talk to people for a change. Even if it is just easier.
I did have one thing I wanted to share with everybody that I came across just as you're meeting with teams and trying to do personal growth stuff or anything like that in the meantime. I'm going to share my screen real quick. I came across this Twitter account that's just called This Is Deep. And they just have all these, there's a lot of pictures, and they get into this paranormal stuff, which I could care less about. But I think there's just a lot of pictures like this one. I think is really creative. I mean, it's all the social media and making it look like a drug. And like this picture, I'm just going to use this one with our cross country team on Monday. And I've just shared the image, and I just asked them to think about what that image means to them and how it relates to cross country, and just something open-ended that we can have some discussion about. But there's just a ton of pictures that I think are kind of thought-provoking. And the nice thing is we don't have to guide discussion. We can just let kids kind of see where it takes it. But, hopefully they're all going to pick up on the point. Like, we can all sit around and think about what we're going to do. That really doesn't matter. It's those people who do, and that's what we're trying to accomplish at this time. So I thought that was a pretty creative thing that I just came across on Twitter. So if you're just looking at things that you can use with just simple stuff that you can send out and have a conversation over, I thought that Twitter page there's a ton of images that are a lot of good stuff on there. So that's my one to share for the day.
On your online Excel spreadsheet assets, I've been dumping a lot of stuff on there. I'm almost done with the books, because those were easy, because I already had a list. I already had a Excel spreadsheet with those. So I'm updating those, but 90% of those are in the football office. So if you see one that you want to borrow or whatever, just go in there and take it and just let me know. And then, or really just put your name next to, who borrowed it. And then, cause there's some good ones in there. Awesome. But right now, all that stuff's in Mr. Deal's room. So on Monday, I guess a lot of the carpet's done on the first floor. About an hour or two ago, Spooker sent us an email saying that. And I asked him if football office is done. He said it should be done by Monday afternoon, which means that they're going to be starting to deal stuff. So I'm going to move it back in there. So that's where it should be.
Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
All right. Anything from anybody else? Coach Gerlez, I just want to ask you how you felt about George Costanza's dad passing away earlier this week.
Just terrible, terrible. 92 is a good run, though.
Very
Maybe
solid.
reminisce about some of my favorite Frank Costanza lines, though. So.
All right. Well, nobody else has anything.
Just Coach G's favorite line, and mine as well, as he sent me, was, "What the hell did you trade Jay Buhner for?" right after he's told of his son's death. So it's just great.
I did. I had to find that clip on YouTube, and I was just like, that's the one. The timing, the delivery. The hell did you trade Jay Buhner? Rocket for an arm. It's great stuff.
Have you been listening to the Nick and Chick podcast, Coach Cooley?
I have not yet. I need
Okay.
to.
Well, they have a Seinfeld where they talk about their favorite moment from Seinfeld is when after Kramer goes to the Oscars, and he's talking about like
Tony.
The Tonys.
The Tonys.
Talking about I ended up at Liza's house, and Jerry's like, Liza Minnelli? No.
No. That's good timing too. Right away. No.
I think my favorite Frank Costanza moment had to do with the stop short episode and Kramer pulling that move on his wife. So. I somewhat apologize and don't apologize for those of you who may or may not have been Seinfeld fans. So
I'm gonna send out that just that Matt Painter stuff with the radio show. I think you guys would enjoy listening to it. It's good to listen. Coach Easer listened to it and agreed. So
that'd be great. And Jeremy, I looked up the Deep on Twitter. Is that what it's just called? The Deep is the Twitter page.
I think it's This Is Deep Picks, PIXS. It's This Is Deep with an exclamation point is their name that they go by. So
thank you.
Yep, there it is. All right. Well, as much as I love Zooms, does Coach Khalil let you know?
I heard it. You said I love Zooms. You do. You love them.
All right. Well, everybody have a great rest of your week. Hopefully we'll get more direction or non-direction later on and let the games begin. So
see you, Coach G.
Later, guys.
See you guys.
See you, Clem. Thanks for looking out for me.
Hey, you bet.
All of us.